The clock struck midnight in Tehran as the final hours of the ultimatum slipped away. For weeks, diplomatic cables had burned between Washington and world capitals, but the red line had been crossed. What began as a war of words was about to transform into something far more consequential. The Armada had been assembling quietly for days. Two carrier strike groups, the USS Abraham Lincoln and USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, converged in the Arabian Sea, supported by guided missile cruisers, destroyers, and submarines. B-2 Spirit stealth bombers lifted off from Diego Garcia, while F-35s positioned at bases across the Gulf region went into alert status. Satellite imagery showed the concentration of American military power in the region, reaching levels not seen since the Iraq War. This wasn't a show of force anymore. This was preparation. Intelligence reports had provided the targeting matrix. The operation would be surgical, designed to decapitate Iran's nuclear program and military command structure in a matter of hours. The primary targets included the Natanz enrichment facility, the Fordo underground complex, missile production sites near Isfahan, and the Revolutionary Guard's command centers in Tehran and Qom. Secondary targets encompassed air defense batteries, radar installations, and naval bases along the Strait of Hormuz. The operation commenced at 0300 hours local time. EA-18G Growlers launched from the USS Abraham Lincoln, their powerful jamming pods radiating electromagnetic energy that blinded Iranian early warning radars across a 200-mile front. Flying in racetrack patterns just outside Iranian airspace, the Growlers created electronic corridors of confusion, their ELQ-99 jamming systems cycling through frequencies to disrupt every radar band simultaneously. F-22 Raptors, 12 aircraft flying in 4 ship formations, slipped across the border at 45,000 feet. Their mission, destruction of enemy air defenses. Each Raptor carried 2 GBU-39 small-diameter bombs and 4 AIM-120D air-to-air missiles. The Raptor's radars operated in stealth mode, detecting Iranian S-300 air defense sites without revealing their own positions. With coordinates locked, the Raptors released their weapons from high altitude, the bombs gliding nearly 40 miles to their targets. S-300 batteries around Natanz and Isfahan died in synchronized explosions before their crews knew they were under attack. Tomahawk cruise missiles erupted from vertical launch systems aboard destroyers positioned in the Gulf and Arabian Sea. Over 200 missiles streaked toward Iranian airspace, their flight paths calculated to overwhelm air defenses through sheer volume and precision timing. Minutes later, 3 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers made their presence known. Having flown 14 hours non-stop from Diego Garcia, each B-2 carried 16 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, 30,000-pound bunker busters designed specifically for deep underground facilities. Flying at 50,000 feet, the B-2s released their weapons in carefully timed sequences. The MOPs fell for nearly 2 minutes, accelerating to supersonic speeds before impact, their guidance systems steering toward specific aim points on the Fordo facility with accuracy measured in feet. 4 B-1B Lancers followed 20 minutes later, each carrying 84 500-pound JDAMs. The Lancers swept over the target area at high subsonic speed. Operating in pairs, they attacked Natanz's above-ground support facilities, power substations, cooling systems, ventilation shafts, and entrance tunnels. The bomber crews worked through their attack runs with methodical precision, their bomb bays cycling open and closed, releasing weapons in rapid succession. F-35 Lightning IIs entered the fight in force. 60 stealth fighters launched from the USS Abraham Lincoln, USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, and regional bases formed into packages of 12 aircraft. The F-35s employed quarterback operations. Lead aircraft penetrated deep into Iranian airspace, using their advanced sensors to identify targets, then transmitted data to trailing F-15EX Strike Eagles loaded with weapons. This allowed the Strike Eagles, carrying up to 15 tons of ordnance each, to launch standoff weapons without exposing themselves to defensive fire. Targeting the Revolutionary Guard Command Center beneath Tehran required surgical precision. A pair of F-35s flew directly over the facility at 40,000 feet, their targeting systems locked on ventilation shafts and reinforced entrances. Each released two 2,000-pound JDAMs equipped with delayed action fuses. The weapons penetrated through meters of concrete before detonating in timed sequence, creating a progressive collapse that buried the facility under thousands of tons of rubble.
The night sky over Iran erupted in fire and thunder. Air defense systems activated frantically, S-300 batteries launching missiles at targets they could barely detect. Some cruise missiles were intercepted, but the majority found their marks. The Natanz facility shuddered as massive explosions collapsed tunnels and destroyed centrifuge halls. Iranian F-14 Tomcats and MiG-29s attempted to defend their airspace. The engagements were brief and one-sided. A-22 Raptors detected the Iranian fighters at ranges exceeding 100 miles. AIM-120D missiles launched from beyond visual range, streaking toward their targets at Mach 4. Iranian pilots never saw their attackers. Within 12 hours, Iran's air force had been effectively eliminated. Iran's response was immediate and multi-pronged. In Iraq, militia groups launched rocket attacks against American bases in Erbil and Ain al-Assad. The U.S. Embassy's Green Zone compound came under sustained bombardment. The Strait of Hormuz became a war zone as Revolutionary Guard naval forces deployed swarm tactics, dozens of fast attack craft attempting to overwhelm American naval defenses. The most dramatic Iranian response came in the form of ballistic missiles. Mobile launchers fired salvos toward U.S. bases in Qatar, Bahrain, and the UAE. Patriot and THAAD defense systems engaged, creating spectacular aerial battles. Most missiles were destroyed, but several struck their targets. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar suffered damage to hangars and fuel storage, while casualties among American personnel began mounting, the first American combat deaths in a direct confrontation with Iran. Hezbollah in Lebanon opened a northern front against Israel, launching rocket barrages that sent millions into bomb shelters. Israel's Iron Dome worked overtime, but the sheer volume overwhelmed defenses in some areas. Tel Aviv and Haifa experienced impacts for the first time in years. The Israeli response was swift: airstrikes against Hezbollah positions in Lebanon and Iranian assets in Syria. The cyber dimension proved equally chaotic. Iranian hackers launched coordinated attacks against American infrastructure. Power grids experienced disruptions, financial networks faced infiltration attempts, and water treatment facilities reported system compromises. Modern warfare had no boundaries. By dawn of the second day, the scope of the conflict had expanded beyond initial calculations. Oil prices spiked to over $200 per barrel as tanker traffic through Hormuz ceased entirely. Global stock markets plunged. China and Russia issued stern condemnations, though their military moves remained limited to increased readiness. The American air campaign continued relentlessly. F-35s and F-22s maintained constant combat air patrols over Iranian airspace.
B-52 Stratofortresses joined the campaign, launching AGM-158 JASSM cruise missiles from standoff ranges. Each B-52 carried 20 missiles, adding hundreds more precision strikes without entering defended airspace. RC-135 reconnaissance aircraft cataloged every Iranian radar emission, feeding intelligence to strike packages in real time. Iranian strategy shifted to asymmetric warfare. The Houthis in Yemen launched ballistic missiles toward Saudi oil facilities. Iraqi militias expanded attacks on American logistics convoys. The humanitarian toll escalated rapidly. Iranian cities suffered infrastructure damage, as command facilities were often located in urban areas. International organizations reported hospitals overwhelmed and civilian infrastructure failing. By the end of the first week, the military situation had reached a complex stalemate. The United States had achieved its primary objective. Iran's nuclear program was severely damaged, set back by years. Iran's military command structure was in disarray, its air defenses shattered. However, Iran's capacity for asymmetric warfare remained intact, and the regional conflagration showed no signs of abating. The question became, what next? American forces could destroy targets at will, but occupation was never on the table. Iran couldn't win conventionally, but it could make the region ungovernable through proxies indefinitely. Both sides faced the same dilemma: how to end a conflict neither could truly win. Diplomatic channels suddenly became the only path forward. Mediation efforts intensified, with China and Russia coordinating with European powers to propose frameworks for de-escalation. Iran demanded an end to strikes and sanctions relief. The United States insisted on guarantees against nuclear weapons development and cessation of proxy activities. A tentative ceasefire emerged after 10 days, though violations continued sporadically. The agreement was fragile. Monitoring mechanisms and verification protocols that both sides viewed with suspicion. American forces remained on high alert. Iranian proxies maintained their enhanced posture. The conflict had paused, but few believed it had ended.
The implications for global geopolitics were profound. The post-World War II international order would face its most serious challenge. The UN Security Council would be exposed as paralyzed, unable to prevent or resolve major power conflicts. International law regarding sovereignty and use of force would be further weakened. The regional balance of power would be fundamentally altered. Even with its nuclear program destroyed, Iran would likely emerge with its revolutionary ideology hardened and its population unified against external threats. Saudi Arabia and the UAE might feel emboldened, but would also recognize their own vulnerability. The global economy would face severe disruptions beyond the immediate oil shock. Supply chains would need rerouting. Insurance costs for maritime shipping would skyrocket. The post-pandemic economic recovery could be derailed, potentially triggering a global recession. Most concerning would be the erosion of the nuclear non-proliferation regime. Other nations watching Iran's nuclear program destroyed by military force would draw clear lessons about achieving nuclear capability quickly or building strong conventional deterrence. North Korea would feel vindicated. Nations like South Korea, Japan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia might reconsider their non-nuclear status. Looking at the global chessboard, this scenario represents not a resolution, but a reshuffling toward greater instability. The multipolar world would crystallize in its most dangerous form. Fragmented power centers pursuing security through strength and deterrence. Alliance systems would be tested and reconfigured.
Nations would be forced to choose sides more explicitly than at any point since the Cold War. The real tragedy is that such a scenario would likely fail to address the underlying issues that caused the conflict. Iran's revolutionary ideology, regional sectarian tensions, and competition for influence would remain. Military force can destroy facilities and degrade capabilities, but it cannot resolve fundamental disputes. It often entrenches them, creating grievances that fuel the next generation of conflict. If this scenario were to unfold, we would look back at it as an inflection point when the international system shifted toward a more dangerous equilibrium. The post-conflict world would be characterized by higher military spending, greater regional instability, weakened international institutions, and accelerated weapons competition. The rules-based international order would give way to something more primal, a world where power projection and deterrence matter more than diplomacy and law. Whether humanity could navigate such a world without sliding toward greater catastrophes would become the defining question of our time.